has commenced the digitalization of past records of vital events dating as far back to the 1800s. When completed, this exercise will enable comprehensive electronic archiving, search, and access of vital event records for the first time in this country's history. The Office of the Administrator and Registrar is digitizing the land, business, marriage, intellectual property, estate, gratuity, and legal records. It is also taking measures to authenticate records, serializing receipts, and using technology to expand the scope of operation. Road safety. For far too long, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, for far too long, Sierra roads have been sites of fatal and road accidents that have caused short promising lives and left hundreds of horrifying injuries. For the first time in the history of this country, my government has developed and implemented a road user policy that seeks to minimize the number of fatalities, injuries, and damage to property on the road. For the first time in the history of this country, the Road Safety Authority has rolled out a biometric driver's license and a digital vehicle fitness card or life card. That is to curb the illegal bringing of vehicle number plates. The authority has also, for the first time in the history of this country, installed an electronic vehicle number plate ordering system. The Roads Authority will this year roll out motor vehicle testing and fitness centers that will determine and verify the roadworthiness of vehicles plying the roads of this country and produce advanced RFID vehicle license stickers. The authority has taken additional measures to provide access to safer drivers training and testing facilities nationwide. It has also signed MOU with 20 community radio stations on road safety education, urge a partnership with the insurance industry on road safety and trade road safety costs to protect ethics and the use of breathalyzers. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and I move on to urban public transportation and safety. My government is working with the World Bank through the integrated Receiving Urban Mobility Project to provide an improved and modernized urban public transport. So far, the Ministry of Transport and Aviation has completed the construction of transit terminals at Wilberforce, and street lights at Como Cross, London, and other project locations in the east of Lincoln. Legislation will be brought forward regarding the transformation of the current public bus operators to the sierraleone Public Transport Authority, with a mandate to regulate private sector bus operators. Mining. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, through effective mining management and oversight of the mining sector, we are now witnessing an expansion in mining activities and an increase in the contribution of the mining sector to national development. The ministry granted 3 large mineral rights in 2021. Revenue from all mining revenue streams is increasing. We continue to pay surface rent to local communities and additional funds for implementation of the development projects in local communities under the Community Development Agreement, CDA. Throughout the global crisis, COVID-19 and disruptions in the mining sector, my government has supported the sector in Sierra Leone. Last week, I commissioned the expansion of the operations of the Maramba mines. I identified closely with the forward initiatives, including the allocation of 1% of the free on board value of the exports to community development, gender parity at the workplace, more technology and a mix of renewable energy, more support for professional training and upskilling of workers, and the location of sustainable farms next to mining sites. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, my government completed the nationwide airborne geophysical survey, and the data set and wave and images are now available. The Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources and the National Minerals Agency, NMA, have developed an improved, integrated, and interoperable enterprise geoscientific information management system and a block-based mining cadastral administration system to provide transparent, accessible, and timely access to geoscientific data and information on exploration and mining license, including the fiscal and community development information in the management and administration of minerals rights. The ministry has ensured compliance with environmental, health, safety, production and auditing regulations for artisanal and small-scale mining operations. Various auditing transparency mechanisms and the processes have been implemented to ensure transparency in the sector. My government has initiated a study on the systematic disclosure, data, and socio-economic benefit to mining communities. Measures and legislation to be brought forward to this House. Tourism. My government recognizes the great potential of tourism for job creation, revenue mobilization, and national development. Accordingly, the Ministry of Tourism and Cultural Affairs and the National Tourist Board have aggressively marketed the country's tourist potential and a favorable business environment at the International Tourism Fair in Paris, Berlin, Spain, London, Finland, and Abidjan. Historical sites, monuments are being restored now. Heritage return by African Americans, sports, tourism, domestic tourism, and leisure tours, the rehabilitation of monuments and relics, and ecotourism are all part of the bigger and more diversified portfolio being offered in the sector. The ministry has worked with the Office of the Entertainment and Investment Ambassador to organize a homecoming festivity. A film festival and a big fiesta. More women are being trained and provided with startup funds to operate in the sector. Additional measures and legislation will be brought to this Parliament. Social protection. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the National Commission for Social Action, NACSA, continues to deliver social protection, reduce poverty, and fast-track community development of sustainable peace. It continues to provide multi-sector services for improving the well-being of extremely poor and vulnerable sierraleoneans. With funding from the government of Sierra Leone, World Bank, and the European Union, NACSA made cash transfers to vulnerable communities and persons with specific needs. NAFTA continues its economic and infrastructure investments around the country, building grain stores, community centers, community markets, community schools, VIP latrines, market stands, single solar fields, and recreational facilities. They also provided cash support of 70,000 euros each to 4 district councils. The Rosile maintained 400 kilometers of feeder roads in Kono, Highland, Pernambuco, and Calabar. NAFTA also rehabilitated 170 kilometers of feeder roads, including bridges in Kono, Highland, Pernambuco, and Calabar. 4,256 youths gained short-term employment during the road rehabilitation or maintenance work. NAFTA interventions in the areas of agriculture, livelihood support, and water and sanitation have been invaluable. 188 hectares of inland valley swamp and 1,390 hectares of body land were rehabilitated in Moyamba, Tombolini, Bombali, Karine, and Kenema districts. NAFTA also helped supply cassava and sweet potato cotton, all oil palm seeding, and 6,280 liters of agrochemicals to various micro-enterprise groups. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we can judge the depth of equity in a nation by how it treats the most vulnerable. We can judge the depth of equity in a nation, equal equity in a nation, by how it treats its most vulnerable citizens. My government remains committed to caring for the social welfare of persons, especially the most vulnerable. The Ministry of Social Welfare has the psychosocial support services, PILALI, at the National COVID Emergency Center, NACOVAC, continues to coordinate referrals for COVID-19 related psychosocial needs. Frontline social workers have also captured and reported the protection needs of children and their families during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. Working with social mobilizers drawn from all categories of persons with disability, the ministry is also addressing apparent disproportionate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on PWDs in 898 pilot districts, in 8 districts. My government also accessed post-Ebola recovery social investment funds supported by the African Development Bank to restore basic services and provided micro business startups in beneficiary communities. My government continues to work to create an inclusive society. We recently submitted to the Global Disability Summit Secretariat the nation's accountability report on progress made in the 6 commitment areas of addressing stigma and discrimination, inclusive education, socio-economic empowerment, innovation and technology, disaggregated data, and women with disability. My government is also reviewing the Persons with Disability Act 2011 to bring it in line with international best practices. Legislation will be brought forward soon. My government continues to provide grants for the care and upkeep of the aged in the only residential care facility for elderly persons in this country, the King George Memorial Home. We urge partners to work with us to expand residential care facilities of older persons who constitute a large proportion of the destitute and vulnerable population. Working with partners, my government is conducting a pilot survey on destitute street beggars include investment in stability in the western area, urban and the rural, with a view to designing a strategy to take on this important social issue. Measures to be brought forward. Labor, trafficking in persons, and nursing. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, my government has developed and popularized the labor migration policy for the first time in the history of this nation. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security has laid out clear requirements for the issuance of overseas recruitment licenses to private employment agencies. Fraudulent labor recruiters will now be held accountable. In addition, my government has also signed the memorandum of understanding with key destination countries on labor and manpower. As a consequence, our migrant workers are now being placed with reputable companies and welfare is being protected. My government also has received, investigated, and resolved industrial cases, industrial disputes, and strike action by local workers in collaboration with the Sierraleone Labour Congress and the Sierraleone Employers Federation. My government has developed legislation on employment, wages, and industrial relations and workers' compensation. My government has also held national consultation and validation workshops with key stakeholders on the draft national action on the elimination of the worst forms of child labor. Measures and legislation will be brought forward. My government has also escalated efforts to educate, investigate, interdict, prosecute, and convict traffickers. We are working with partners to provide services for victims and their families. Our national action plan against trafficking in persons, especially women and children, is being implemented. Most significantly, I would like to register my sincere appreciation to this Parliament for recently enacting the Anti-Trafficking and Migration and Migrant Recovery Act that provides for one of the safest sentencing regimes in Africa for the offense of trafficking in persons. Human trafficking is always unacceptable. We will continue to work with other countries, development partners, and aid agencies to fight trafficking in persons in Sierra. NACID's Benefit Social Insurance Scheme now covers 5,375 establishments, 2,607,419 active contributors, and 28,000 pensioners. It is an active player in the financial market in Sierra Leone and has participated in various sectors of the economy in support of national development. After the benefit tribunal have been set up to address delays in the processing of benefits, NACID has established a specialized unit to facilitate the update of the record of members before they apply for their social security benefits. Mobile customer claims are now available to beneficiaries and payments are made by the 25th of every month. NACID is also working with the National Labour Organization, International Labour Organization, ILO, to establish an appropriate scheme for workers in the informal sector who comprise the bulk of the workforce in Sierra. Measures and legislation will be brought forward soon. Women, children, sexual and gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, my government has strengthened child protection systems and mechanisms to to address gaps and ensure a more holistic approach in conjunction with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. We have analyzed a national strategy for street children and adopting a family tracing and reunification approach. This weekly focuses on building back families and strengthening communities. By government, it also reviewed the Child Rights Act 2007 with a view to strengthening protection mechanisms for children and other groups. Legislation and other gaps. Legislation will be brought forward soon. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, my government has further strengthened the prevention and response strategies and structures for sexual gender-based violence. We have operationalized the free rape helpline and also established two more one-stop centers in Carine and Bonn to provide free comprehensive survival center services for victims of sexual and domestic violence. The National Sexual Gender-Based Violence Response Strategy has also been launched to provide national referral pathways and formalize the response structure. We have also established 4 sexual reproductive health hubs in Kwenadugu to provide adolescent-friendly family planning and other services in a drive to reduce teenage pregnancy. I've spoken earlier about my government's commitment to providing equal access to education for girls and women. For us, gender equality and women's empowerment are not mere stated goals. We understand gender equality can be tied to the future and fortune of our nation. There can be no true development if our women are not free and equal. Our goal of promoting development, tackling poverty, and entrenching good governance cannot be met without the full and free participation of the great women of our nation. With gender firmly on the agenda, we have commenced gender mainstreaming in the main MPAs to facilitate the integration of gender issues within sectorial policy, plans, and programs, and to ensure international gender beneficiary targeting. Most significantly, my government developed the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Team to improve women's political and economic empowerment. Legislation has been laid. That legislation has been laid in this parliament, and I appeal to all of you who believe in an inclusive and equal future for every Sierraleone to make the best decision for the future of this nation and pass the gender empowerment bill. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, pass the gender empowerment bill. Honorable members, and I come to you here. I adopted human capital development as my flagship program because I believe that young persons right across this nation can and will transform the future of our beloved nation. By investing in young people, I believe Sierraleone can make significant economic, social, and governance gains. My government has therefore invested in training and creating opportunities and facilities for young entrepreneurs. We have established a national youth empowerment that provides seed money for youth entrepreneurs. Working with the UNDP, my government has piloted youth Connect Hub in Mongo, Calabar District, Matridium, Bond District, Daru, Kailan District. Government has completed 10 car wash centers with 339 for young people in the Western area. My government is also at an advanced stage of completing 26 additional car wash centers nationwide. That we provide 989 direct jobs for young people nationwide. The National Youth Service has recruited, trained, and deployed over 1,523 young people who pay to various institutions across the country. Consultations have been held on the review of the National Youth Commission Act 2009 and the National Youth Service Act 2016, and legislation will brought to this House. My government has also intensified anti-drug education, trained and equipped staff and community advocates, developed and validated the 5-year strategic plan 2022-2026 for the fight against substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking in Sierra Leone. I thank honorable members for passing the National Drug Control Regulations 2021. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members. All measures will be taken as necessary. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, determination. This is in addition to sport development as an integral part of national economic strategy planning. With our return to the African Nations Cup in Cameroon after 25 years.
You got the key, you got the key. You got the key.
With our return to the African Cup of Nations in Cameroon after a 25-year hiatus, our increasingly popular and profitable Sierra Leone Premier League that is showcasing exceptional footballing talent and our regional success in boxing, golf, swimming, my government can safely claim that we have restored an era of excellence. Over 1,500 directors and several thousand football-related jobs have been created by the Premier League. More football infrastructure has been built since my government and the private sector, by my government and the private sector. Kenema City can now host and more weather playing surface. My government also fulfilled its pledge to create a national sports fund that will be administered for the benefit of sports development in this country. For many of our youngsters, sports are to peer pressure and drug use, to peer pressure and drug use, and living a healthy, vibrant life. An economy with a healthy and productive young population is surely one that is on its way to prosperity. I thus humbly encourage you all, every Sierra honorable members of parliament and friends of this great nation, to support this fund however you can. You will do it. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, justice sector reform. The prosperous nation cannot exist without the freedom of its citizens. And yet, without justice, there cannot be freedom. popular maxim, justice delayed, justice denied, is one we keep close to our hearts. Consequently, we have worked to ensure that more people have access to timely justice. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, our government has taken concrete steps to expand access to justice throughout Sierra Leone. The judiciary has deployed resident judges to Moyamba, Butloko, Kailam, and Koinalugu. Koinalugu district for the first time in the history of this country. The judiciary has also deployed resident magistrates for the first time to Mongo, Talabar district, Kamakwe, Garina district, Segwema, and Daru in Kailam. Special High Court criminal stations in Leone, Calabar, Makonidi, and Carina districts are providing over 823,000 persons with access to justice. A special High Court criminal session was held in Kwendu town to handle cases around the Guinea and the Liberia borders for the first time ever. With the deployment of magistrate courts to Mongo, in the Calabar district, Kamakwe in Karina district, Segwema and Daru in the Kalam district, for the first time, regular magistrate court sittings are being held daily in these localities. Concomitantly, the Office of the Attorney General has also recruited and deployed state councils to expedite the delivery of justice. These actions have reduced the financial burden on people who hitherto had difficulty traveling out of their localities to seek for justice. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the Legal Aid Board has established offices in dozens of community advice bureaus in dozens of towns and cities across the country. These offices have become the first port of call for those with justice needs and those facing challenges when accessing justice. The services include representation in court, legal advice and assistance, and through mediation of civil matters and community level disputes, legal education through community outreach, school and phone outreach, and the monitoring of traditional courts. The board has provided legal aid services to over 500,000 indigent and vulnerable persons, including foreign nationals, since its inception. The board has also secured a better life for hundreds of women and children who make up 83% of the 39,292 beneficiaries of legal advice and assistance through alternative dispute resolution mediation in 2021. The area of services including child maintenance, spousal maintenance, death, marital and family disputes, and inheritance and property matters. The board has expanded access to justice for juveniles by monitoring juvenile detention facilities, providing legal assistance to suspects, delivering legal advice and representation to those standing trial. On the general issue of decongestion, for the first time ever, my government working through the judiciary and the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice has decongested prison population using the novel idea of judicial week, during which the case files of inmates are reviewed. 374 remanded prisoners were admitted to bail and 234 inmates were discharged nationwide. The government has matched these institutional reforms with increased staffing in the judiciary of Sierra Leone. More university graduates have been recruited, and a communications and public affairs department set up. For the first time, 28 judges and one magistrate have been trained on the investigation and prosecution of trafficking, investing, and money laundering offenses. New judges, magistrates, and officers New judges, magistrates, court registrars, and bailiffs nationwide have been trained. The judiciary has trained 31 drivers on road safety and traffic regulation, and also trained court reporters for the first time on ethics and professional court reporting. The court records management system has also been multi-improved. By government's establishment of the specialized anti-corruption court, sexual offences model court, and social security court has recorded huge successes in the last 1 year. Conviction rates in the sexual offences model court jumped from 3% to 22%. Cases are now completed expeditiously, and preliminary investigations are now bypassed. The anti-corruption court has recovered over 4 billion leones. Social security cases are now drastically reduced because people prefer to pay. For the first time, the work of the judiciary is now more visible on national and global platforms. We have established the first virtual court to expedite cases before the court. The new commercial court rules 2020 allow for the evidence to be given on application to the judge from abroad through WhatsApp and Instagram. The court has a functional website, and court records are now better kept and accessed. The Small Commercial Claims Act and access to New York Convention improve the business and ecosystem. Investors can now rest assured that their investments are better protected by law. For the first time, 5 persons have been convicted under the trafficking, anti-money laundering, and property of financing of terrorism for trafficking in persons and money laundering offenses. My government has also amicably arbitrated commercial disputes. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, human and people's rights. Closely tied to our belief in access to justice for all is our unshakable conviction that all human beings are both free and equal in dignity and rights. As a signatory to multiple human rights treaties, we take our obligations seriously. In January of this year, I wrote a white paper for the Constitutional Review Committee report that seeks to address gaps, discrepancies, and inconsistencies in our 1991 Constitution. As promised, no entrenched provisions will be rushed through a referendum ahead of the forthcoming general and presidential elections. Our government will take practical steps to address the non-entrenched parties. In fulfillment of our human rights treaty obligations, a multi-sectoral group has put together a report on Sierra Leone's human rights record that highlights efforts and steps taken by Sierra Leone to improve human rights. This was presented at the Universal Periodic Review Mechanism of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. Government is fully committed to addressing issues raised in the annual State of Human Rights report presented by the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone. At several points today, the Speaker and honorable members have made mention of the great progress we have made as a nation in respect of people's rights. We are combating human trafficking and child marriage. The judiciary and state institutions are independent and undertaking reforms. Access to justice has been expanded and correctional facilities are being decongested. There is an effective national civil registration program and laws have been introduced to introduce discrimination against and promote and protect women, girls, persons with disability, and other vulnerable groups. My government worked with Parliament to permanently abolish the death penalty in Sierra Leone. As I argued then, the death penalty is cruel, inhuman, and degrading. We are a civilized nation. We should not, we shall not, and we will never again execute any person in this sovereign foreign Australia. We have repealed seditious libel laws, supported the unfettered practice of journalism, supported more professionalism in journalism, and held the first ever media investment conference. I'm proud to say that no journalist is imprisoned in this country for the practice of journalism. As a result of those reforms, I'm pleased to note that Sierra Leone has progressed impressively on the World Press Freedom Index, moving 29 places from its 75th position in 2021 to 46th position in 2022. The 2022 report published by the Reporters Without Borders recognized that Sierra Leone's media sector is pluralist and generally independent, and freedom of the press is guaranteed by law. We remain committed to deepening our ongoing reforms in the media for long-term viability and sustainability. I'm also pleased to share with you the good news. Approving the board media reforms that my government has initiated, culminating in the Media Viability and Sustainability Conference held on the 21st and 22nd April. The International Fund for Public Interest Media has listed Sierra Leone as one of 17 countries eligible to submit proposals for their maiden round of funding. The funds will enable the development of sustainability and independence of public interest media, especially in developing countries like Sierra Leone. I would like to encourage the media to take full advantage of this opportunity, which will support trustworthy, ethical, fact-based journalism. Governance and measures to sharpen, refine, and consolidate our democracy. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, when I come to government, my government has continued to deepen democratic governance and administrative reforms over the last years. There is greater automation and transparency around government operations. Various MDAs have reviewed inefficiencies and undertaken requisite institutional reforms. Federal government reforms and decentralization continue apace, and government has sustained its funding of local councils at unprecedented levels. The National Elections Commission, the Political Parties Registration Commission, and the National Commission for Democracy continue to take concrete actions, measures, and programs to foster an informed, open, and inclusive democracy. The Human Resource Office has rationalized the payroll of the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, migrated and upgraded 1,254 staff to assume functional titles through the migration policy, and is working to institutionalize a performance management culture in the civil service. It has generated approval for a total of 497 civil servants to pursue different courses of study locally and internationally. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, legislation on the Civil Service Code and Public Service Regulation shall be brought to this body very soon. The Public Sector Reform Unit undertook institutional effectiveness and reforms audit of MPAs with a view to identifying gaps in capacity, systems, processes, and challenges affecting the performance of those MPAs. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, fighting against corruption. My government fight against corruption is unabated because it is linked to the future of this nation. Corruption stifles economic growth and destroys national reputation. It diverts crucial funds from healthcare, public infrastructure, food security. It undermines political stability and entrenches injustice and inequality, and widens the gap between the rich and the poor. The fight is dear to my heart. Our Anti-Corruption Commission has recruited more prosecutors, formalized the creation of various units, such as the Appeals Unit and the Civil Assets Recovery Unit, broadened the mandate of the Anti-Corruption Act number 12 of 2008 to include the investigation and prosecution of offences committed under the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Financing of Terrorism Act. Increased the number of prosecutions and won a higher number of convictions for corruption offences. The Commission also extended its mandate to the prosecution of examination malpractices and other acts of corruption relating to the education sector. Undertook extensive random review of compliance practices as well as practice and procedures in various MBAs, received an 87% response to asset form inquiries, with MDA and society organizations to promote public education about corruption and successfully monitored and reported on the implementation of the national anti-corruption strategy. As a consequence of my government's action, Syria became consistently increased its score in the corruption indicator of the Millennium Corporation, of the Millennium Challenge Corporation scorecard to an unprecedented 83% from 81% in 2020. The country's scorecard in 2017 was a woeful 49%. The country's scorecard in 2017 was a woeful 49%. In the 2021 Transparency International Global Corruption Perception Index and country ranking, Sierra Leone progressed upwards from 117 in 2020 to 115 out of 180 countries surveyed. Sierra Leone also increased its 2020 score to 33 to 34 in 2021. Also above the sub-Saharan average and the highest the country has ever recorded since the CPI ranking began. Foreign relations, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, in pursuit of our nation's interest, Sierra Leone, as a member of the Committee of Nations, recognizes the importance of multilateralism as the fairest way for countries to engage with one another and solve global problems. Recognizing also the need for multilateral cooperation to resolve conflicts and to address the pressing issues of our time, we continue to shape and advance our foreign policy priorities in line with current and emerging regional and sub-regional and global realities and development. Much to the chagrin of my opposition, I flew a few more too many times to various destinations. Why did I travel? To undo the stigma. Why did I travel? To undo the stigma and reputation of it is directly linked to our economy and our standing in the world. We flew to tell our new story, the story of the new direction. The story of the new direction. The government of our interest to transform our nation. Those engagements continue to pay off in hundreds of millions of dollars in grants and in technical assistance for government partners and friends. Yes, there is a reward for good reputation, which we have. There is also the future possibility of hundreds of billions of dollars from direct foreign direct investment and from our compact eligibility as a result of passing the MCC scorecard for 3 consecutive years. We retain high leadership responsibility at the United Nations, African Union, and the Economic Community of West African States. We are responsible for coordinating the advancement of the Common African Position on the reform of the United Nations security in the ongoing intergovernmental negotiations at the United Nations General Assembly. I was also unanimously selected to serve as the chairperson of the African I got unanimously selected to serve as the chairperson of the African Peer Review Forum of Heads of State and Government. I have also been nominated as the co-chair of the United of UNESCO High-Level Steering Committee for FDG 4. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, considering that the nation received even more greater funding in the last 4 years.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Successfully conducted two tenures as Sierra Leone successfully concluded its tenure as president of the 7th Conference of State Parties to the Arms Trade Treaty. Currently, Sierra Leone is co-chairing the working group on treaty universalization of the ATT. Anthony Perry, permanent representative of Sierra Leone in Switzerland, is the chair of the trade-related aspect of intellectual property rights. Rights Council of the World Trade Organization for 2022. That is the second most important council of the WTO. Sierra Leone serves as the vice chair of the International Organization for Migration, Governing Bureau. Sierra Leone is chair of the 4th Intersessional Meeting on Human Rights and Agenda 2022. Sustainable recovery, advancing gender equality, and strengthening partnerships toward an individual. Following investment from ECOWAS, African Union, censored, Sierra Leone is poised to return to the United Nations Security Council in the non-permanent role. Thank you. African Union censored, Sierra Leone is poised to return to the United Nations Security Council in the non-permanent category in 2024-2025 for the second time ever, over 50 years of absence and non-selection. Through our active participation in multilateral organizations, my government continues to protect Sierra Leone's visibility as well as our foreign policy footprint. We have also participated at the highest level in the Global Education Summit for the Global Partnership for Education and the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, both highly impactful for this nation's future. My government undertook high-impact state and official visits to the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and Vietnam, focusing mainly on strengthening the South-South cooperation and partnerships, and reached a series of far-reaching bilateral cooperation agreements and memoranda of understanding. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, thank you for magnanimously ratify many of those agreements emanating from those partnerships. I anticipate your continued support in ratifying more. Our bilateral cooperation engagements with the Federal Republic of Germany, the Arab Republic of Egypt, Kenya, and Uruguay have been elevated to a new level. We have also signed and operationalized a number of visa-free entry agreements with a view to paving the way for the development of tourism and trade. Our newly established embassy in Rabat, Kingdom of Morocco, is fully operational. The reopening of the resident embassy in France is at an advanced stage, and we are planning the opening of 2 high commissions in India and South Africa. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me conclude. Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me conclude. You have heard a lot of my government's accomplishments, but the job is far from over. Our challenges will never disappear, but together we can create We can create new dreams and new hopes. Instead of fears and new cries, as we normally do. We can step up. We can step out of the past and become architects of the future. Together we can elevate our national consciousness, improve the economic and physical health of our nation, and reaffirm the greatness of our people. One of the reasons I'm fascinated by bridges is that it always reminds me of the past time. And by the way, I'll be commissioning my military this Everyone is invited. Everyone is invited. Look, every time I commission a bridge that my government has built to connect communities, towns, and cities, I am reminded that the secret to the cohesive, resilient, and strong nation lies in our ability to reach across the spaces that appear to separate us, to build the connection between our various groups, realizing that we all succeed if we work together. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we are a tolerant and optimistic nation. We must resist the rhetoric and divisions which drive a wedge between us. We must embrace those with whom we have shared destinies. Let us work together to develop this nation. Let us be once again for being the first most peaceful country in Africa, a member of the International Religious Freedom of the League Alliance, and one of the few countries in Sub-Saharan Africa with a national commission for peace and the national cohesion. It is my desire to continue to work with all of you, even from my left, to make sure thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Oh yes! Oh yes! God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. The leader of government business for a 5-day debate on a motion of thanks from His Excellency the President. I would now want to invite the leader of government business to receive a thorough address from His Excellency. Honorable Speaker, Ministers, Deputy Ministers of Government, Honorable Members of Parliament, Your Worship the Mayor of Freetown, Your Excellencies, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. After the national anthem, His Excellency the President will leave the chamber. He will be accompanied by the Vice President, the First Lady, and the Speaker of Parliament. Please wait patiently in your places for Mr. Speaker to return and adjourn the sitting. I thank you.
Naga for take us struggle. APC una go give struggle. APC na je una no say na struggle na struggle. Una vote na we stop.